Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Xaybeast Live. This is going to be a very different episode. No, it's not. The difference is not that this is yet again another evening stream, although that is part of it. My previous stream was an evening stream, and that was the first time that I did an evening stream on this channel. No, this particular episode of Xaybeast Live, where most Xaybeast Lives are just kind of an open thing, it's like a Q&A, and I just talk about a bunch of movie news. This Xaybeast Live is going to be much different because if you've been watching my channel, you would know that not too long ago, I think it's about a month ago, maybe just over a month ago now, I reviewed the show Death Note, the original show that ran from 2006 to 2007. I reviewed that show. I loved it. I loved every second of it. It didn't have a weak episode in my opinion. I gave it an A+. Death Note is one of my favorite shows of all time. Oh crap, let me fix this. There we go. Discuss in the live chat. So as I was saying, Death Note is one of my favorite shows of all time. And then in 2017, not too long ago, in 2017, there was a live-action Death Note film made by Netflix, directed by Adam Wingard. Now, usually, live-action American film adaptations of anime suck. They normally suck. Look at the live-action adaptation of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Evolution sucks. Look at the Attack on Titan live-action movies. Yes, those exist. They suck. Look at the, what was it? Ghost in the Shell. Well, I didn't mind that movie, but, like, there's just so many, live-action adaptations of anime that suck. And this specific episode, this entire stream, this entire episode of Xaybeast Live is dedicated to one specific live-action anime adaptation. I was originally going to just do a normal review, like a usual review covering this film, but then when I actually sat down and started writing my notes, I realized I have so much more to say, and I'm not going to make a 30-minute review. I think this is a very discussion-worthy matter, so I would just like to discuss with you guys. The only redeeming part of the movie is N isn't in it. Yeah, Nier was not in the live-action Death Note movie. That was, like, the one thing about it. Well, there were a couple. Okay, here's the thing. I do not like this movie at all. I think this movie is horrible. But there are a couple things, a couple redeeming qualities, but I only have like 4 bullet points on here that talk about things that I liked, and I have 2 full pages. 2 full pages of things that I didn't. So, but I decided to make this fair because I'm always on the side of artists. Now, we are going to discuss this film in depth. This stream is going to contain spoilers for not only the film, but also for the anime. So if you have not seen either of them, well, honestly, I don't encourage you to watch this film. I guess I kind of do, just, like, I encourage you to watch it, I guess, just so you can form your own opinion, but it's a pretty universal thing that people really don't like this movie, especially fans of the original anime. So I'm gonna say if you haven't seen the original show, do not watch this stream. But if you have, you're safe here, because this is going to be spoiler-filled. And keep in mind, this is not just going to be me talking the whole time. This is a discussion that's in the thumbnail, so you guys discuss in the chat. So to be fair, because I know a big annoyance with this is, like, a lot of people who haven't seen the anime watch the movie, like the movie, criticize people who didn't like the movie because they're just saying, well, all you're doing is comparing it to the original. Why can't you just look at it as a standalone film? So I was like, okay, I'll look at it as a standalone film and see if it works any better. So to do that, in these notes, I have an entire section explaining why it's not good as a standalone film. So this entire section of notes is not even comparing it to the anime. This particular section of notes is just going to be looking at it purely as a film. I'm going to pretend like the anime doesn't exist. I'm going to pretend like nothing else exists, just that this movie is just its own thing, nothing ever happened. So let's start with that. Here are my reasons for why this 2017 Death Note Light Turner. Yeah, Light Turner, like, what the heck was up with that, you know? Like, why? Why couldn't they just keep his name Yagami? It's an Asian actor, isn't he? I don't know. Anyway, here's the thing, because they try to make it so that, well, we'll get into this. I'm not gonna say all that now. I'm sure it's coming up in the notes. So this section of notes is why it's not good purely as a standalone movie. We're not even gonna be talking about why it sucks as an adaptation of the show. Standalone film criticism here. Number 1, no character motivation is clear. This is a very, very big issue with this film, purely as a film. You can watch this film, and there's certain character motivations that, like, their motivations just don't make sense. You know, there's certain things that just don't connect. So many plot holes, just so many holes in their motivations. You can understand the baseline motivation of Light in this movie. He gets the death note, you know, you write someone's name in it with their face in your mind, that person dies. You can specify, you know, the cause of death and anything like that. If you don't, they'll just die of a heart attack. You get the baseline motivation at first, because Light is like, I'm just going to use this to kill a bunch of bad people, and it'll make the world a better place. It's like, okay, that motivation, like, I can get behind that. Where the motivations, like, that's an okay motivation. I actually also wrote here, the motivations that are clear are just shallow. This is extremely shallow. This is just an extremely shallow motivation. It's like, okay, so you're just gonna kill a bunch of bad people. So and the problem with this is there's still a sense of justice no matter what he's doing. Throughout the entire movie, he never kills an innocent person. You know, it never brings in that extremely deep theme of moral ambiguity. He's only killing people who have done bad things. Now, I'm not saying I endorse murder, even people who have done bad things. I'm just saying there's still some sense of, like, he has good intentions, you know? And that makes his descent into madness in this film, which is not executed well at all. It makes it not make sense. Why is he going mad? Like, the trigger for going mad would be if he killed someone innocent, but he doesn't kill any innocent people in this film at all. He kills just a bunch of criminals. So then that arc is completely just eliminated, and the motivation itself doesn't make sense. Alright, another thing, it's also extremely rushed. This entire film is, and again, this is the section of notes where I'm not even comparing it to the original show. Now, I love the original show, and it's very hard for me to distance myself from that and look at this purely as a standalone film. Purely as a standalone film, pushing the show aside, pushing my love for the show aside, this film is extremely rushed. There are many montages that go through extremely pivotal parts of Light's life and of his arc, and that's again why the arc is so poorly developed, because you just don't feel it. There's not enough time given to it because it just montages through a bunch of stuff. There's very little character development. Light's character at the beginning of this film, his emotions and everything, nothing changes. If you look at the end of this film as well, nothing changed. And so it's a very, very poorly developed arc. It's also very tonally inconsistent, and this kind of goes in line with all the montages and stuff, but more specifically, when it comes to tonal inconsistency, this film is trying to be way too many things at once. It's trying to be a crime drama, it's trying to be a thriller, it's at times trying to be a comedy, it's at times trying to be a romance, and it's at times trying to be a soapy teenage drama. It's just trying to be all these things at one time, and it just doesn't work. It makes it feel very inconsistent. It doesn't know what it wants to be, so as you're watching it, you're like, what am I... Like, there's nothing to latch onto here. Like, okay... Like, there'll be a moment in the film where you're like, okay, so they're going with the thriller route for this scene. But then the very next scene is like this cringy teenage angsty drama romance stuff with a lot of 80s soft rock. Yeah, very odd music choices for this film. That just sucks you completely out of it and makes any intrigue that you had before pointless. So there is that. Next up, okay, so this is a more technical criticism. The editing is horrible. This film is terribly edited. There are some scenes that are edited very well, and we'll get into that, because I don't want to spend the entire stream just bashing this film, even though I'm spending the majority of this stream explaining why I feel that this film is just so bad. But when it comes to technical aspects, the editing is okay. We're back. I am so sorry for that. My internet was messed up for a second there, but we are back. As I was saying, this is a more technical criticism. The editing in this film is extremely jarring. It is incomprehensible. And as I said, there's not even any shaky cam going on. It's literally just because of how long the shots are staying on screen, which is a lot of times just for a millisecond. There's and as I said, this stream contains spoilers for both the film and the original show. There's a scene where the character of L is getting news that one of his associates died. So someone walks into the room, tells him, and then L picks up the phone to just tell someone. And the way it was edited, I couldn't tell which happened first. Like, was he informed of this person's death, and then did he pick up the phone to call off the attack, or did the person walk in first, inform him of the death, or did the person walk in, did L pick up the phone? See, even explaining it now, you're probably getting confused. That's just how terribly edited it was. But that's just one specific scene. As I said, there are scenes in this film that are very well edited, and as I said, I will get to that with the very few positives that I have. Next up, we have certain characters and talents are very underutilized. There is a specific character in this. I don't need to be ambiguous. This stream is spoiler filled. The character of Ryuk, the Shinigami, the death god in this film, very, very, very underutilized. It's so cool too. The character design of Ryuk in this film is actually very accurate. And it was really cool, and Willem Dafoe as Ryuk is amazing. The voice acting there is superb. I can't imagine better casting for Ryuk in a live-action Death Note adaptation. That was perfect casting. But he is so underutilized. I hesitate to even say he's a supporting character. He's just kind of an afterthought that's there every once in a while, and you never actually really see him. He's always like in the shadows, and not that that's a bad thing, but like normally with films who keep a monster in the shadows, it makes it more scary when, like it finally reveals it at the end, but it's never revealed. So I took the liberty of turning up the brightness on my laptop when I went to re-watch this film and adjusting the contrast, and I saw why. If you do that, you will see that the CG for Ryuk is embarrassingly subpar. And this was a Netflix production. Like it was a pretty big budget production. So that's also disappointing. As I said, the character design is good, but it was not executed in a way that made it super convincing. Now, just looking at the concept art for the film, very good, but an actual execution did not work for me. But Willem Dafoe is great as the character, and I hope they retry. Like, I hope they make another live-action Death Note film that fixes everything and still cast Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, because that is perfect casting in my mind. I think L was terrible. Lakeith Stanfield was misplaced. Yeah, the casting, we'll also get into that. The casting of this film is very poor. Some of the casting choices, they just don't work. The guy who plays Light's dad, even the person they got to play Light himself, it didn't work at all. They did a very poor job of embodying the heart of these characters and what made these characters so interesting in the original. But as I said, this is the segment of the stream where I'm forgetting that the original exists and just judging this purely as a film. Well, reviewing purely as a film. Here we go. Next up, the performances are very weak. Yeah, this is the last thing in criticizing it purely as a film. I didn't find the performances too convincing. Aside from Willem Dafoe, almost every other performance in this film is unbelievably cringy. Like, insanely cringy. So, the Nat Wolff he's not a terrible actor, but he's really bad in this movie, and I have a feeling that a lot of that has to go to Adam Wingard. I've liked some of Adam Wingard's films before, but I have trouble seeing what he was trying to do with this. His direction in this film, unfortunately, when it comes to the actors and, like, clarifying to them, like, how they should be feeling in certain situations, is unfortunately very poor. Most of the performances, like I said, aside from Willem Dafoe, most of the performances in this film are extremely subpar and feel like they were ripped right out of, like, a cheesy 90s teen soap opera rom-com type thing. Yeah, it didn't work for me. And this is coming from someone who is a fan of Dawson's Creek. So the fact that I'm using that as a criticism, that in itself should say a lot to you. His brother would have done better, Alex Wolff from Hereditary. Yeah, the casting of Nat Wolff is, like, as I just said, terrible. I was not aware that he had a brother, but Alex Wolff, he was the older brother in Hereditary, I believe. Yeah, he would have been. He's a much better actor in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. So that definitely would have worked better. Okay, so that was everything about why this doesn't work purely as a film. Now we're going to get into the segment of the stream about why it doesn't work as an adaptation. If you have not seen the original show Death Note, which, as I've already said, I adore. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I gave it the A+. I'm spoiling stuff for both that show and this film. Okay, first bullet point. What made the characters in the original show so great is completely lost here. This ties into what I was saying before, where none of the character motivations in this film make sense, and even the ones that do are very, very poorly developed. Here's the thing. What was so interesting about Light as a character in the original show was the moral ambiguity that was there. Yes, he started out using the Death Note his original goal was to rid the world of bad people, to rid the world of murderers, rapists, kidnappers, like all these people who were doing horrible things. His plan was to rid the world of all criminals, and so that it would lead to the new world where, like, there were no criminals and everything was good. That is present in the live action adaptation. Now, what made Light's character so intriguing is when he started to deviate from that. He started to kill people who were committing much less severe crimes. Crimes that you only get, I don't know, maybe even just a warning for, not even prison time. And then eventually, to keep himself from being discovered, killing innocent people. Like in the original, he killed the private investigator's wife. He killed her because she was on his case, and he couldn't, have her talking to the private investigator about his situation. And then, eventually leading to the death of his father. Light ended up having, like, his actions led to his father's death. And so that's what made his character so intriguing in the original, because he had an admirable idea. But his obsession with the Death Note, and honestly with Ryuk as the Shinigami, is what caused him to go into that descent of madness that eventually led him to his complete downfall in the finale. It was such a perfectly executed arc in the original show, and in this film, they completely montage over everything. Light gets the Death Note in this film within the first 2 minutes. Within the first 2 minutes, he has the Death Note and he's already killing people. There's no attention at all given to that arc. It's stupid how Light did this just to impress Mia. Yes, that's the other thing too, as I'm discussing with him not being him not being anything like Light in the original show. In the original show, he was doing it for this goal, but like in this film, he's just this cringy, angst-filled teenager that wants us to feel very angsty about his angst, and he's very angst-filled with angst, and he shows Mia the Death Note the day they meet. Like, the very first day that they meet, he shows her the Death Note, and he just starts using it to impress her. As I said before, the motivations that are clear are still extremely shallow. It's like, oh, I want to impress this girl, so I'm going to show her that I have a notebook that can kill people. And apparently Mia just goes along with it. Like, when he proves to her that it actually works, she's like, oh my god, that's so cool, let's just do stuff. It's so shallow and so poorly developed, and just very poorly written. I think the biggest issue with this film is really the script, and I'd like to see what the original draft was, because I heard that the original draft was actually supposed to be really good, like something that the fans of the original would actually have, like, loved, but then they did away with that. That's how all teenagers are in America. Yes, that's exactly how all teenagers are in America, which is why I feel if you're going to make a live-action adaptation of Death Note, why not just stay true to the fact that Death Note is an anime? You know, have it take place in Japan like it did in the show. Have the characters, speak Japanese and everything like that. I mean, and do not tell me that people will not like a subtitled film. Parasite just won Best Picture in 2 years ago. So don't tell me that people aren't going to be a fan of a subtitled film. And that's the other thing too. The film is Death Note, the original show, is so not American. It is so foreign, and so many aspects of that are what made it so great. This film is so Americanized and dumbed down, and it's like a teenage YA soap opera. It just really, really doesn't work. Next up we have what made the anime so thematically rich and complex is instead changed to teen drama and angst. This is what I just said. In the anime, Light was a very respected student. He was a straight A student, honor student, on the path to like Ivy League schools. Everyone loved Light in the anime. Like, he had like many people who had like crushes on him and stuff and things like that. But it wasn't like focused on too much in the anime. They didn't focus on, that aspect of it because they know that is so undeniably cringy. And they knew that the focus should be on this extremely dark stuff that Light is doing behind the scenes and the cat and mouse game between Light and L. And that's what the anime understood, and it focused on that specifically, and that's why it works so well. In this film, no. Who cares? Apparently. He's just doing it to impress Mia. And apparently Mia is just like a full-on psychopath and betrays Elle at the end of the film. And because there's no development for any characters in this film at all. You don't know anything about them, except for Light. But the stuff you do know about him is so poorly executed and justified, and the arcs that they set up with him are so poorly done that you just don't care at all. You don't care about anything in this film. In the anime, Light was very respected, but in this film, they made him this really, like, sad, depressed, bullied teenager that you just don't believe would do these things. Do you think Netflix had an influence on that since it fits their demographic? I will say so, yes. Although I do feel like Adam Wingard had a lot of say in this adaptation when it came to that, because, yes, a lot of Netflix originals are directed towards a primarily, like, American teenage audience, which is funny, because most of their shows aren't actually, like, rated for teenagers. Most of their shows that appeal to that demographic are TVMA, so technically, teenagers aren't, like, most parents wouldn't let their teenagers watch them, but, like, those are, like, the only people who actually watch them, because so many adults aren't interested in the teen soap opera crap, So yes, I will say, I do think Netflix did have a lot of influence on that, in trying to make this appeal to so many people, and they failed miserably. And it's not just that this didn't appeal to fans of the original show. It didn't appeal to people who had never seen the show either. I've talked to a lot of people who have not a lot of people, but like a few other people who have not watched the anime, who watched this film and did not like this film. Now, granted, I've talked to a couple who have not seen the original show, but I've seen this film and liked this film. But if we're talking about majority rule here, the majority of people, like both people who have seen the show and both people who have not seen the show, were not fans of this movie. Light Yagami should have wrote down Light Turner in the... Yes, because why? Why did they change it to Turner? And with Mia, too. Why didn't they just keep her name Misa as it was in the original show? They just took out the S to make it more American. And why did they choose Turner? Like, why Light Turner? And don't give me some, crappy excuse of like, well, it's Turner, get it? Because it's like a metaphor for how Light is turning to this dark side of his mind that he's never opened before. So his last name is a metaphor for this. No. No. No, why not just make it... Do you guys know what Yagami means? I looked this up the other day. Let me show you what Yagami means. Light's name literally means God of the Night. That's literally what it means. That would have fit so much better. Whereas Turner is like the literal word is like, it's like a literal thing. It's not even really a metaphor. What's worth, Death Note or Last Airbender? I'm going to say Last Airbender because I didn't like anything about Last Airbender, and this film has Willem Dafoe's Ryuk, so I'm going to say that. Dark Yagami, Dark Turner. Yeah, see, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Just keep Yagami. Plus, it's just a cool name. Like, Light Yagami. Like, I don't know, like, this, it's, anyway. That's not as valid. That's more of a petty criticism. Next up we have, this film loses sight of what Death Note is. As I said before, this film does not know what it wants to be. The original show very much knew what it was. It knew what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a crime drama. It wanted to be a crime drama with aspects of horror and mystery. When you limit it more like that, you have more of an opportunity to focus and therefore reach your end goal much more successfully. Now, this film completely abandons that. And it loses sight of what Death Note is. It loses sight of why the original was so successful. The original show, and I'm not even kidding, it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not even kidding. And I think it has like a 95% audience score and a 100% score from critics. So why not just look at what made the original show so successful, which was that cat and mouse game, and how intriguingly smart Light was as a character, which we'll also talk about. Why not just take that and make the subtle changes you need to make for a live-action adaptation, then just run with it? That would have worked much better. Oh, do you think M. Night would make a great Death Note? Yes. But not if he wrote it. I think I would like someone like, I don't know, maybe Aaron Sorkin or David Koepp to write the script for a live-action Death Note and then just let M. Night Shyamalan direct it. Because you'll notice, when M. Night Shyamalan is directing something that he didn't write, he feels much more freed in a way. That show Servant, that's currently on Apple TV+, M. Night Shyamalan didn't write any of that, and if you look at the episodes that he directed, they're some of the best episodes of the entire show. So yeah, I definitely do think that M. Night would make a great Death Note film. But my vote is still Fincher. I think David Fincher would be like the best pick for a Death Note film. Why was Light so stupid in the anime? Light was probably the smartest anime... Why was Light so stupid in the anime? Light was probably the smartest anime main character. Yeah, I was just about to get into that too. This film wants you to believe that Light is this amazing, intelligent genius. But every decision he makes is so unbelievably stupid, you never buy into it. In the original anime, Light is insanely smart. I mean, like, so insanely smart. And then that's why it was so intriguing when he was going against L in the anime, because L was also so incredibly wise and smart and intelligent, has these amazing, unequivocal deduction skills. And Light also has that. That's why that cat and mouse game in the original anime works so well. But in this film, not only is Light made stupid, L is also pretty dumb in this film too. The portrayal of L in this film is horrible. It's awful. I mean, they gave they tried to justify, for example, in the original anime, there's many perks to L that make him such a likable character, that make him so endearing. His need to sit like he does because it helps him think better. His constant need to be eating food constantly to put him in that state of mind. It made him a very endearing, really just cool character. Which, speaking of which, L is my favorite character in the anime. This movie failed to appeal to the casual audience. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, not only did it fail to appeal to fans of the anime, it also failed to appeal to people who haven't seen the anime, like just casual American audiences. It failed on every level to the point where no one, I mean, I know obviously there's people out there who like it, but when I say where no one likes it, you get what I'm saying. The majority of people it didn't work. Next up, we have, the characters feel so out of character from the original, and this is kind of what we were talking about right here. His name shouldn't even be Light in this film. I don't know what the main character is in this film, but he is not Light Yagami. No. L in this film, he's not my L, you know? The only character that they got right in regards to personality in this film, and just barely, is Ryuk. That's really the only character they got right, and again, to a lot of that has to go to Willem Dafoe. Next up, we have main characters that were pivotal to the story in the original are barely even in the film. Now, this is obviously talking specifically about Ryuk. Ryuk was in almost every single episode of the original anime. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was in every single episode. He was the main character right beside Light and L. He's barely even in this movie. And that's another thing. One of the reasons the original Death Note is so great is that dynamic between Light and Ryuk. Their conversations together. A lot of very good, very dark comedy, yes, but nevertheless comedy and humor between them. It was almost like a buddy movie and like a buddy show in a way. It was very endearing. Also, how they treated Watari. Yes, Watari in this film, not Watari, I'm pretty sure it's Watari, if I were to pronounce it accurately. Watari in this film is butchered. He is, both metaphorically and literally, he's just, the way they handled his character, his death in this film angers L so much, to the point where he actually almost writes Light's name down in the Death Note. Despite the fact that he has nothing to go on when it comes to knowing, how Light kills people or how the Death Note works at all. Now, he figured it out in the anime, but he figures none of it out in the film at all. So how would he know to write Light's name down if he was really that angry at him? And plus, that's also extremely out of character from L. L would never do that. L was always this calm, controlled, very focused being in the original, I guess Aura in the original anime. In this film, he just jumps all over the place. He doesn't even feel like a character. I mentioned this before. This film also montages through the best parts of the anime. Oh, crap. It also montages through the best parts of the anime. Everything. Think of anything. Light's interactions with Ryuk and him killing all these people, and then and then L investigating him. That the anime was literally about. The entire anime was about the cat and mouse game between Light and L. And this movie montages through it in I don't know, a minute and a half. And then L meets up with Light and he's like, "I know you're Kira." But he's not saying it like he's suspicious. It's like he knows. He's like, "I know you're Kira." So much just gone. Everything that made the original so intriguing and investing to watch is just gone. It's gone. It's eliminated. Alright. Second page. There's no arcs for any of the characters like there were in the anime. Now, this may sound repetitive when I just say it like that, but let me elaborate. Let me explain. The character arc in the anime, it's a very simple arc. Light's character arc in the anime, he goes from good to evil. It's a very simple arc. It's a very simple arc in theory, but it was executed so complexly and with layers, and it was so elaborate, and there were so many pieces to the puzzle. It was never just a black and white situation. And in this film, it is. But I hesitate to even say that the arcs in this film are black and white because there's no arcs in the film at all. There's no arcs to even call black and white. So there's no point at all in watching this film. You go to a film to experience a journey, but if there is not a journey in the film at all, then it doesn't matter. There was an arc. It was arc between Mia and the Mia and the pavement. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like there were ideas of arcs in this film that they had. And yeah, you can look at Mia at the beginning of this film and then look at her at the end, and they're different because at the beginning she's just kind of this curious girl who's curious about this Death Note, and then at the end she's a full-blown psycho. But it's not executed. It's just like one scene she's like just curious, and then bam, the very next scene she's a full-blown psychopath. There's no execution of arc here. At all. Nothing whatsoever. Yeah. Next up we have the psychological intrigue is nowhere to be found, and instead the film focuses on gore. Now I will say this might be somewhat of a positive for this film. There's some really good practical gore. Like, a lot of the gore in this film is not CGI, it's practical, and it looks cool. It does. There's some good gore. There's a decapitation scene that makes no logical sense. Like, I don't believe that a ladder would decapitate someone just by sliding off the back of a truck. I don't care how fast it's going. But the shot was cool. It was very good gore. You know, I guess, like, gore hounds would love watching that. But it's at the cost of all the psychological intrigue. You're not... The original Death Note is such a psychological thriller, and again, it just ties back into the thing. This film abandons everything that made the original so great. It's like they didn't even bother to look at why the original was so successful. I'm actually doubtful that some of the people who worked on this movie even watched the original. She's crazy. I wonder how she's a regular teen and not in an asylum. Exactly! That's the other thing, too. I guess she died before she could be captured, but, like, if she was just always crazy, why is she just living this completely normal life? And then, lastly, this film thematically, tonally, character-wise, and story-wise completely abandons the soul of Death Note. This is essentially the culmination of everything I've said in the stream up until this point. Everything is abandoned. These characters are nothing like the characters in the original anime, and even as a standalone film, they're not intriguing in the slightest because there's no development for any of them. At all. It's terrible. The psychological intrigue, gone. The cat and mouse game, gone. Montage through, but gone. Even the amazing dialogue. The original Death Note was such a well-written show. It's one of the reasons why it was so intriguing. The dialogue exchanges between characters were so well-written. Particularly Light and Ryuk. And that's just completely abandoned here as well. And it's like something that was made for the CW network. It's really, really bad. Mia was so stupid, she makes Misa look like Einstein. Yeah, Mia was such an idiot in this film. When you look at her plan, it makes no sense. That scene at the high school dance where she, like, explains her plan, it makes no logical sense. Right from the first sentence when she starts explaining it, you're like, wait, but that doesn't even add up, and you're gonna explain everything else? That just piles on to the holes? Like, it was a cat and mouse game between Mia... It was a cat and mouse game, but yes, the live-action Death Note 2017, You've changed my mind. It is an amazing work of cinematic mastery. This extremely deep and complex layered arc between Mia and the pavement. It's okay. I couldn't keep a straight face when I was doing that. I just couldn't. I'm glad that she died. That's the one thing. I was really happy to see her die. Though I wish her death would have been much more violent. I wanted to see her slowly disemboweled, hung from a tree, her limbs cut off, and then just let her bleed to death. I think that would have been much more satisfying for that character. But, you know, a fall to her death is fine, too. Speaking of which, that scene at the end of this film, where Light and Mia are on the Ferris wheel, and it's collapsing, and Ryuk is making it collapse, which is actually really cool. Him, like, slashing his arm, and then the Ferris wheel, like, slashing in the middle and kind of falling off. She falls, and then there's this 80s soft rock playing, and then, you know, Light isn't able to hold on to her, and she does that, you know, slow-mo fall where it's like, no, and then she just falls to her death. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna talk about this when I get to my positives. I liked that scene. Not for the reason they wanted me to, but I kinda liked it. I don't know, I feel like if Adam Wingard was going to make this a teen soap opera, then just go full soap opera. Do for Death Note what Scream did for slasher movies. You know? If you're going to not make this like the original Death Note at all, you're just going to use the same general concept, and you're going to make it American, at least make it satirical. You know, this would have been a very enjoyable movie if it was like a dark comedy satire, poking fun, self-aware, referential thing, to teenage, like, angst and melodrama. That would have been great. That would have been a great movie that I would have loved, because that would have been, that would have been so good. But no, this film does not know what it wants to be at all. It doesn't choose one specific genre to focus on. It's like a clash of all genres. It's like the clash of, like, the worst parts of all genres. Like, the worst of all worlds. And here we go. We are getting into the things that I actually liked about the film. There's some good cinematography. I will say this, when it comes to Adam Wingard as a director, as I said, I've enjoyed his previous two films. You're Next, I thought was a very well done horror film, and then The Guest, I've seen portions of it. That was a very thrilling mashup, like, action horror movie. It was very good. In fact, why didn't he just do that? Just take Death Note and put it in the style of The Guest. That would have been, oh my god, do you know how good that would have been? That would have been amazing. That would have been incredible. But nope, he didn't. But this film still looks nice for the most part. It would just be nice if the shot stayed on screen for longer, because like I said, the editing is so unbelievably atrocious. But there's some good shots. The scene where Elle confronts Light at that table in the restaurant, while it makes no thematic or logical sense, it was still well shot. The lighting was good, you know, things like that. This is a well shot, well lit film, but everything else is just so bad. It has a great score, but it doesn't fit with this film at all. There's a chase scene between Elle and Light in this film, and it's playing over it is this, like, and you can tell they tried to make it, like, really intense, but it just doesn't work. You can tell by the score, it's like this really cool, like, kick-butt 80s synthwave type thing. It reminded me of, like, Stranger Things combined with, I don't know, Mad Max Fury Road. Really good score. And I will say, if you haven't seen this film, just go to YouTube and look up Death Note 2017 chase scene. And just watch that scene alone. When you watch that scene out of context, it's a very entertaining scene. Very good scene. Very enjoyable. But it doesn't fit in the movie at all. It just more than adds to that tonal inconsistency that just... Willem Dafoe, as I've already said, there's one funny moment in this movie. There's one moment in this movie where it was intentional. Because I was laughing throughout the entire film, but not for the reasons they wanted me to. But there was one moment in this movie, one joke that did actually land, and that did get a chuckle out of me. It was when Light was talking. I think he was talking to Mia on the phone, and he was also watching the news and trying to orchestrate some kind of plan. And he was watching Elle's address on TV, what Elle was saying to the public. And then Ryuk is sitting behind him, and Light is talking, and then Ryuk is just over there laughing. It's like, I like this guy. You're busted, kid. This guy's gonna get you. And then Light just interrupts him right in the middle of his end. He's like, shut the up. It was really good. Like that actually got a chuckle out of me. And then Ryuk's reaction, like that, that was funny. That landed. And that's the thing. Notice how probably my favorite part in the entire film, aside from when Mia died, is that one moment of legitimately good humor between Light and Ryuk, which just goes to show that this film needed a lot more interaction between Light and Ryuk. Death Note in today's generation would have been even better for Light and Elle because how technology has made it harder and easier for their goals. Yes, I didn't even think about that. Look at all the technology we have now. We've come a long way since 2006 and 2007. And I'm pretty sure the original Death Note takes place even before that, or after, I'm not sure. All the technology we have now, it makes it like you have so many more ways to catch a killer, but the killer has so many more ways to hide. Because of that technology. They should have incorporated that, and that would have made it even more complex of a cat and mouse game. Really, really wasted potential. The funniest part of the movie is when Mia hits the pavement. You and Mia and the pavement. What is going on there? You have this obsession with Mia and the pavement. And that was also dumb too. She landed on the pavement, but Light landed in the water. Come on. And also the ending it makes no sense. Like, Light is just laying in that hospital bed, and then Ryuk is just over there laughing, and then Light is just like, huh? And then it just ends. Like, what? What does that mean? Like that. And don't tell me that, don't give me that it's ambiguous. You just don't get it. You just gotta read into it. It's ambiguous. What? You want to be spoon-fed answers, Xavier? Are you telling them to just give you a whole bunch of exposition? No. Not at all. I'm very against that. But there's a difference between ambiguity and laziness. You can be ambiguous. You can be lazily ambiguous. This was just being lazy. This wasn't ambiguity. It was just laziness. It was like, oh, let's just end it and make people think that, something bad happened. But when you give us no clues as to what bad thing happened, the times when ambiguity works is when it's not being ambiguous for the sake of being lazy. It's when they actually paid attention and gave you the pieces of the puzzle you need to put it together. It just takes some thought. That's good ambiguity. And here, there's nothing to put together at all. There's no dots to connect. It's just this discombobulated bundle of just inadequacy. Who's worse, N or Mia? You mean N or Misa? Because N was not in this film. Who's a worse character? In the anime, N. Much worse character. I actually liked Misa in the original. I don't know. She was definitely the most anime of the most anime aspect of the original anime. And I'll say this, the Death Note anime, in my mind, that's the anime for people who don't like anime. If you don't like anime, you'll still like Death Note. It's almost like Death Note was made specifically for people who weren't fans of anime, to try to get them to get more into it and to uncover all these amazing stories that they're telling over there in Japan, and that we thankfully have access to. Yeah, I never thought about it that way either. I guess Light realized that he missed the pavement from ending. The pavement, man, you and the pavement. It's you and the pavement all the time. No, as a character, who's N from the anime or Mia from the movie? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Is the character of N in the anime worse than the character of Mia in this live action adaptation? Um, I'm gonna say Mia in the live action adaptation is worse, and I know you hate N. Trust me, I do too. But at least N had like admirable traits. Like he in no way lived up to L, but at least he was still intelligent. You know, at least he still like busted light, even though L kind of did that first before he, you know. So at least like he had admirable qualities. Mia in this film, there's nothing about her that you can latch onto. Even N in the anime, you can latch on to how much you hate him. There's not even enough character given to me in this film for you to even hate her. You're just sitting there, just like, please, just like die. This is boring and bland and blah blah blah. Yeah. And the final positive, the film is somewhat entertaining. I will say that not for the reasons they wanted it to be, but the Death Note film, it wasn't hard to sit through. I'll say that. Like, I wasn't bored while watching it because it was just so entertainingly bad. I won't say it's so bad that it's good. Like, I think this film is just bad, but it was entertaining just how bad it was. The Pavement is my Death Note. You and the Pavement, man. Speaking of which, what would you do? You go out there with like sidewalk chalk and just write names on the pavement, and that's how the people die. And you could, and like after they die, you could erase the evidence, you know, because it would rain and the chalk would just go away. Especially if it's the pavement that was right by the water, like it was in the movie. Tide raises up, chalk goes away. That would be wonderful. So yeah, that was my 56-minute breakdown of why the Death Note movie is as bad as it is. The original anime is still incredible. Still one of my favorite shows of all time. Probably the top. It's in my top 3 favorite anime. The only entertaining part of the movie are the end credits. Yeah, because that's the other thing too. The end credits have like a bunch of bloopers and stuff and like funny moments on set. Which is also, like, even though that's the best part of the movie, that's also, again, kind of a negative, because the movie is trying to be this, like, towards the end, it, like, fakes you out with, like, this moment that's supposed to be scary, I guess, and then right after that, they're showing a bunch of funny bloopers. And it's just like, what? Like, it's a complete tonal cluster. Yeah. And it's just not, it's just, I don't go to Netflix, pull up the Death Note live action film and only watch the end credits. Then it's an A+. I wonder what Mia's parents were thinking when she died. Were they happy? I mean, I don't know, because we never get any confirmation if she even has parents or family or friends, really, aside from, like, the people on the gymnastics team. I will say, I like the opening of the movie. Like it opens and you're seeing these, like, aerial shots of Seattle, and there's this kind of cool, like, sort of, alternative type music playing, like a... Like, I liked it. Like, it was like, okay, like, this is kind of intriguing. The Death Note falls from the sky, light picks it up, it's a very grim lighting. I was like, oh, okay, like, this is fine. Like, the first 2 minutes are intriguing, even though they don't make any sense, and everything is so rushed. The character of Mia would make a great Joker. Yeah! Yeah! She would make a great Joker, just because of how bad insane she was. You and the Pavement. Yes, Mia, I'm gonna embrace it now too. The Pavement. Mia lives on in the Pavement. The Pavement is her home now. If you wish to visit Mia, Simply go to the pavement, lay upon the pavement with your body, and speak to the pavement. Whisper in the ears of the pavement. And don't step on the cracks of the pavement. The pavement. Such a lame death, too. Like, just falling to her death. I don't know. In fact, a lot of the deaths in this movie were pretty lame. The only death in this movie that I liked was the decapitation, and even that didn't make any logical or physical sense. Ryuk even says in the movie, because, like in the original anime, there's a bunch of rules in the Death Note. There's rules in the Death Note in this movie, too. A lot of the rules from the original. But they also made up rules for this adaptation. And one of the rules that they added in this adaptation, Ryuk says, if you specify the cause of death, it has to be physically possible. And there's this funny moment in the movie where Ryuk is like, so no shark attacks on the toilet, although that would be amazing. Ryuk is the best part of the movie, by the way. And he's barely even in it. So, yeah. So if this film is telling me, and this is another thing too, it completely betrays its own logic, what little logic it has. The film is telling us that the death has to be physically possible. And yet the decapitation is nowhere near physically possible. It was like this Final Destination ripoff thing. I believe that the death in Final Destination 5, was it? The gymnastics death where the girl's flipping on the thing and then she lands and her back breaks and like her legs are like hanging over her head and they're like torn open. I believe that is more physically possible than the decapitation scene in this film. Light Turner is the goofiest character. Imagine Mia gets eaten by the pavement shark. They were by the water. Like, you made a joke about sharks earlier. The film made a joke. Ryuk made a joke about sharks earlier in the film. So maybe you could, like, wrap that up and have Mia die from a shark attack. It's like, instead of having the dumb thing where Mia falls on the pavement, but Light's okay because he fell in the water, why not have them both fall in the water? And if you're going to have Mia die and Light live, have them both fall in the water, but then just have Mia die from a shark attack. That would have been awesome. Like, that would have been insane and ridiculous, but it would have been awesome, you know? Like, if this film is going to be insane and ridiculous, just go all out. I guess Mia's head popped in the pavement. The pavement. Anyway. Yeah. And that was the other thing, too. The music choice for that scene. She's falling and that 80s soft rock is playing. But, like, I kind of liked it, to be completely honest with you. Like, completely detached. I was like, this is very darkly comedic, and I kind of like it. The lighting was good. There was some good... And the fact that she fell into a bed of flowers, too. Like, come on. So many times in this film where I was just rolling my eyes. But it was a good shot. Like, she fell in the flowers, and then the flowers shot up, and her body's just, like, you know, doing the slow-mo, like, bounce thing, like, when you land. Good cinematography, but that doesn't mean it's a good moment. Although it was satisfying to see her die. There's that. So yeah, that is my hour-long breakdown of why the Death Note live-action film is bad. If you like it, hey... That's your right. You like things. You're allowed to like things. I'm not going to judge you if you like this film. I can see how some people like this film, you know, because I'm a very analytical person. You know, I read into things very deeply. I analyze film and television and anime and books and even songs at this point. Lose my God. A random 5th grader can beat up Turner. Yeah, that's the other... And that was also a really dumb moment at the beginning of the Death Note film, where Light is like, if you were to beat me up, I'm still 18, so technically that would be child abuse. But that never even comes to fruition, either. It's just completely abandoned. It's like... What? Okay. It's like it was supposed to be funny, and you were supposed to be like, ooh, that's clever, Light. But no, it's not, because it's not factual in the least. It's like, Oh, wait. Actually, that doesn't make sense. You know, like that was the reaction I had when that moment. Because at first when he said that, I was like, that's wait. No. That's dumb. That was my initial reaction. Well, and it's still my take on the scene. But yeah, Light is just such like a cowardly wuss, honestly, and I hate that word, but he's just such a wuss in this movie. I guess Mia's favorite song is "Let the." My God, you've been especially funny this stream. I'll say that. let the bodies hit the floor. Song has a very different meaning than falling to your death, but yeah. So yeah, there we go. That was the Death Note stream. I don't know if I should continue going on the stream for the Q&A, because this stream is specifically dedicated to talking about the Death Note film and the anime and everything like that. So maybe I should just end it here now that the discussion is... Unless you keep it coming with the comments about Death Note, and we can just discuss it further. It doesn't necessarily have to be the film either. We can discuss the anime. Heck, we can even discuss the manga, which I still need to buy the manga, by the way, because I also really want to read the manga. So yeah, if you will want to keep the discussion going, we'll do it. But I do want to end the stream soon anyway, because this was a very exclusive episode of Xaybeast Live. Because most episodes of Xaybeast Live are just about the Q&A and things like that. But this was specifically about talking about an awful adaptation. So yeah. I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed bashing that film. I will say though, I'm still excited to see what Adam Wingard does next. Like, I'm still excited to see his future filmmaking endeavors, you know? I'm still excited to see that. I'm excited for him as a director, but I feel like this film really was a downhill in his career. Have you seen the anime movie? Okay, so no, I've only seen the original show and this live action adaptation. I have not seen any of the other Death Note properties. I haven't seen anything. And I know there's a lot. There was actually a live-action Death Note film in 2015. It was a Japanese thing. Now, but you will see most of the other Death Note properties are also terrible. So it's kind of like a trend. It's like nothing's gonna top the original. Though I will say I have began writing my own live-action Death Note film that in hopes of getting it right. When I tweeted that wasn't a joke. I'm actually doing it. And it's not like it's a fan fiction either. It's going to be faithful to the anime, and it's going to have everything that was so good about the anime in it, and have the things that weren't so great about the anime excluded, and hopefully it'll make it be like a great movie. And I would love to direct it one day if I could ever get the rights. Final question. Do you think the pavement was angry it saw Mio was gonna... Yeah, I imagine when the pavement was looking up at the Ferris wheel and Mia was, like, hanging off, the pavement was probably like, fudge nuggets, she's going to hit me, isn't she? Well, let me just, wait. And use the gravitational pull of the Earth to yank her from Light's hand and just make her plummet to her death. Make sure you include the pavement. I will include the pavement. Mia's death, well, here's the thing, it was never really, like, fully confirmed in the original Death Note if Misa died, because that was her name in the original. And I kind of would like to keep it like that, but if Misa does die, she's hitting that pavement. Yes, in my movie, yes. Alright. I think that's going to wrap up this stream, guys. This was a very short episode, I know, but it was because it was specifically dedicated to the Death Note live-action film and the anime. So if you haven't seen the original Death Note show, I highly recommend it. the entire thing, ironically enough, is on Netflix. The entire show of Death Note is on Netflix. It's only 37 episodes long. Give it a watch. Do not watch the live action film, and watch the live action film. You know, form your own opinion. And yeah, kill N in your movie by hitting the pavement and keep Misa. Yeah, I'm gonna keep Misa. If I do include N in the movie, I'm gonna have him die, and I'm not gonna have him be this like extremely forced successor to L that in no way lives up to L. And that's just if I include him. I don't think I'll even include the character of N in my movie. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching this stream. I know it was very different and not a lot of people were watching, but nevertheless, I had a lot to say about this film, and I knew that I couldn't do it in just a normal review. So there we go. I have nothing else to say. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It really does mean a lot. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep